That down, Fumi Saito.
Write that down.
Write that.
With Fumi Saito and Justin Nipper.
Write that down, Fumi Saito.
Hulk Hogan was born in 1953. Okay, 1953.
Okay.
His debut match in Jacksonville, Florida was 1977. He was already 24 years old. Rather, not right out of high school kind of wrestler. You know, he was playing in band. He was working in different places. You know, he was working at nightclubs as a bouncer, and he did this and he did that. Not like a lot of this high school graduate who didn't know what to do about your life, right?
I heard he was in a band too.
Yeah, Ruckus.
Ruckus, yeah.
Actually, yeah, Ruckus and a couple more other bands, and he was actually fairly well known in Tampa, local, nightclub bar rock band scene. And he was living in an apartment where people like Fujinami, Killer Khan, Tiger Hattori, all those people were, living in this one place in Tampa. Actually, Hulk Hogan was living in the same apartment complex around that time, like in 77.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he probably had a lot of charisma from the rock and roll scene already going into before he went into pro wrestling, do you think?
But he was a big guy, though.
Oh, plus he was a big athletic guy.
Yeah. And then also he was a well-known wrestling fan from Tampa, Florida in mid-70s. And when the superstar Billy Graham had run, young Hulk Hogan, not Hulk Hogan yet, Terry Bollea, he was always sitting in the same place, the third floor, the third row at the Tampa Sportatorium, where he shows up every Wednesday Wednesday night, dressed up as a younger brother of superstar Billy Graham with his tie-dye T-shirt and everything.
Wow!
Did you know that?
No, I never knew that.
Yeah.
So Hogan used to dress up, almost do cosplay like Billy Graham.
Yeah, superstar Billy Graham.
Wow.
Just like around the same time that Jesse Ventura was doing a cosplay, of superstar Billy Graham up in Minnesota, telling people that he was a younger brother of Billy Graham. And so how popular superstar Billy Graham was and how influential he was.
It's pretty amazing. So that was around 1977 or so.
And I'd say when Hulk Hogan was doing that.
Oh, he was doing it a little early. Okay.
Like a 74, 75.
Right. So mid-70s, he's doing that.
Yeah, teenage Hulk Hogan showing up at the wrestling match, NWA Florida shows, being a big superstar Billy Graham fan. Of course, he wanted to be a wrestler. And and I know that Hulk Hogan was trained by Hiro Matsuda. Mm-hmm. Probably today's fans don't know who Hiro Matsuda is either, huh?
I'm not sure. I mean, he was named to a lot of old school fans and hardcore fans would definitely know, especially if you're watching Florida. I mean, he was a big part of that. And he trained a lot of, not only Hogan, but he trained, I think, Lex Luger and Ron Simmons.
And Ron Simmons. Yeah.
A lot of the big Florida guys, Hiro Matsuda was put in charge of. So
yeah, actually, the reason is, though, it's kind of like Brad Reagan's school in Minnesota. Hiro Matsuda never really had wrestling school, and back then all the old school wrestling promoter and coaches, or they call it policemen,
mm-hmm.
They hated the idea of running wrestling school, have guys come over and pay a couple $1,000 and teach them how to do wrestling. And it was closed society thing that whomever came to this NWA office door, asking them that they wanted to be a wrestler or something, they usually say, no, you can't, you'll never make it. And the reason Hiro Matsuda decided to coach young Terry Bollea, Hulk Hogan, was that he was a big guy, and the guys like Hiro Matsuda and Bob Roop, all these shooters was in the back of the office. All right, bring him to the practice ring and stretch him. And if you stretch him, that night, he probably won't come back tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah, they don't want you to be a wrestler. You know, it's like there is no way to get into business unless you know somebody or something, and that also connects to the little episode of uh, you know there are a lot of wrestlers who writes autobiography books. On For Hulk Hogan's case, there are like 3 or 4 books, including Hollywood Hulk Hogan and a couple other biography books, right?
Right.
Hulk Hogan talks about that Hiro Matsuda breaking his arm or shoulder or whatever the very first night of the training. It was actually like an initiation thing. There is no such thing as wrestling school. If any young guy, big guy, or bouncer type, or weightlifter type, bodybuilder type, that shows up at the wrestling office saying that he wants to be a wrestler, they'll take you back the dojo, sort of. The wrestling office is a wrestling ring and place to work out, and they'll put you in the ring with people like Hiro Matsuda or Bob Roop or somebody, and they'll make sure they'll stretch you, and you're not gonna come back. That's the very old-fashioned way of protecting business. I mean, complete kayfabe era, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's different is that Hulk Hogan came back the very next day. Let's do it again,
He wasn't scared. He wasn't scared off.
And also I thought, I'm pretty sure that he felt that this is how you get in the business, paying dues. Now he felt that he knew some guys.
Mm.
And among guys that who stretched Hulk Hogan initially was people like Mr. Sato, who later on became Great Kabuki. Saito,
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's Masa Saito.
Mr. Saito.
And,
Yes.
Mr. Saito, yeah, Masa Saito and Great Kabuki. Those people were in Florida then, and they all right, well, we'll stretch this guy, and they later on became friends. But Hulk Hogan didn't really give up the first night, so he kept showing up. So Hiro Matsuda felt, well, we could probably make money with this guy, and felt that this guy has it. Very interesting, huh?
So, and at this time too, he was pretty big.
Yeah.
And was he bigger than most of the wrestlers down in Florida at the time?
Taller. Yeah, because he's naturally 6'7", 6'8".
He's a tall guy.
Yeah, and then also, what was interesting is though that the high school Hulk Hogan went to, the Robinson High School,
Mm-hmm.
there were Mike Graham, Steve Karn, a couple more, Dirty Dickie Slater. All those guys were in the same high school, but Hulk Hogan was not in that clique. If you remember, this is American high school. Everybody play football. In the winter, either you play basketball or play hockey or you wrestle. In spring, you play baseball or run track or something. A lot of the guys play 3 sports, right?
Right. Especially down south.
Yeah. Like a season, all 3 season sports, and you're a letter guy, all that. And Hulk Hogan wasn't exactly the athletic clique. He was a big guy, but most legitimate sports he played was Little League baseball,
So he was just a big dude who
big guy,
tough guy who could stand some pain. Yeah, loved wrestling.
And he also wanted to be a wrestler and wanted to be rock and roller too. When you were young, you want to be a couple things, right?
Right.
Either you play in band or you become wrestler. The 2 things that Hulk Hogan wanted to be.
Write that down, Fumi Saito.